Hey guys, how's it going? So about this logo, I've been wanting to do a video for a while now about this logo because it always struck me as weird that the Manhattan Project had a turreted castle at the bottom of its logo. And when I looked into it, I realized quickly that the logo was actually from the U.S. Corps of Engineers, the Army Corps of Engineers. And I didn't realize it at that time, but they were responsible for the Manhattan Project. And you know, the Manhattan Project is the project to develop the atomic bomb that was supposedly used in World War II. So that Manhattan Project logo, which carried the turreted castle, is also the logo of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. And again, they were the ones that carried out the Manhattan Project. And surprisingly, they were the ones that also built the Kennedy Space Center in 1961, so all very convenient and strange. So yes, there's something weird about the Army Corps of Engineers having a turreted castle as their logo, and then being responsible for what I consider to be very controversial projects, the Manhattan Project #1, and the Kennedy Space Center, and everything that has to do with NASA #2. So if you look for the origin of the turreted castle as the logo, well, you'll find this. It's apparently shrouded in mystery. I don't know why the logo of a government agency would be shrouded in mystery, but apparently it is. And unfortunately, the official records of the Corps housed at the military academy at West Point disappeared in a pre-Civil War fire in 1838. So how convenient and strange is that? The reason for the logo was most likely lost in a fire. That's the story. So anyways, that was the impetus for this video, and I just wanted to quickly go through all of the magical fires that happened in the 1800s. But before I do that, I also wanted to talk about this medal here. This medal was the World War I Victory Medal. And as you can see, it strangely looks like the Statue of Liberty. Now, the design of this medal apparently is from, it's a winged victory holding a shield and sword on the front. And then the back of the bronze medal features, get this, the name is the Great War for Civilization. So the name of this medal is the name of this was the Great War for Civilization in all capital letters. Yeah, I just find that to be very strange. And apparently this was designed after Victoria, which in ancient Roman religion was the personified goddess of victory. It's all about victory. It's the Roman equivalent of the Greek goddess Nike or Nike. I'm not sure how you pronounce that. Yeah, that's very interesting that our World War I medal is crafted after the Greek god. Everything else is just so strange and convenient. But yes, strange Army Corps of Engineer logo, strange Manhattan Project, strange NASA, strange fires that destroy the evidence in the at West Point. And so that led me to make this video to quickly just go through the convenient fires of the 1800s, the very strange fires. Just the sheer amount of fires and the destruction is just breathtaking. So here we go. Let's just quickly blast through these. For a few of them are interesting, and I'll go into more detail on those. I'm only doing the 1800s and the 1800s in America, the USA. These convenient fires happened all across the world, every country, and you know, again, we were fighting massive wars in this century as well. In addition to the Civil War, which has its own problems, but yeah, let me just get through these. This is very strange. So 1805, we have Detroit, just burns to the ground. Apparently that city likes to burn to the ground. And then 1813, we have Buffalo. 1814, we have the burning of Washington, of course. Not many pictures for these early fires as well. But 1815, we have Petersburg, Virginia. 1820, we have the Great Savannah Fire. Let's see, it burned almost 500 structures with damages of about $4 million, apparently. So that's the story on that one. 1829, we have Fire destroyed hundreds of buildings in Augusta, Georgia as well. 1831, we have the Great Fire of Fayetteville, destroyed 500 buildings in the city. That's crazy there. Then we have 1835, the second Great Fire of New York City of 1835. So there's a doozy for you. And then we have 1838, Charleston, South Carolina, over 1,000 buildings damaged. So that's quite a fire there. 1843, we have Fall River, Massachusetts fire. You can see that going there. We have 1843, we have the Fall River. 1845, we have the Great New York City fire of 1845, where 345 buildings were destroyed. So you'll see a lot of these bigger cities burn multiple times, because I guess you have to. There's a lot of Tartarian architecture to get rid of. So also in 1845, we have the Great Fire of Pittsburgh. So look at that artistic depiction of the destruction, but massive destruction nonetheless. And then we have 1846, we have Nantucket, Massachusetts fire. A lot of fires in Massachusetts for some reason. That must have been a Tartarian stronghold. 1848, a fire in Medina, Ohio. The fire in Medina, Ohio destroyed the entire business district, so that's convenient. Now, 1849, we have the St. Louis fire. It saw the first U.S. firefighter killed in the line of duty, 1849 St. Louis fire, and look at the destruction of St. Louis. I mean, that's insane. And again, I don't understand why there are pictures of some cities, but there are no pictures of other cities and their fires and aftermath. And they'll even be larger cities, but for some reason there's no picture of them. So we have St. Louis, we have San Francisco, 1849, of course, the Great Fires of San Francisco, another city that burned multiple times. 1850, we have Philadelphia, PA, and then in 1851, San Francisco burns again. 2,000 buildings destroyed. San Francisco in 1851. Again, San Francisco must have been another insane Tartarian city. 1852, we have Sacramento City. 1856, Philadelphia. Not many pictures from there. 61, we have Charleston, South Carolina. So check out the destruction of Charleston. That's pretty significant looking there. In 1862, we have Troy, New York, with 671 buildings destroyed. That is pretty massive. And then 1863, we have Denver. Denver bit the dust in 1863. 1864, we have Atlanta, burned after time given for evacuation of citizens by order of William Sherman. So yeah, Sherman was a bad guy apparently. He gave everyone time to leave and then he burnt the city to the ground apparently. That's very strange and ruthless, but that's the story, so we're sticking to it. 1865, Richmond, Virginia burns to the ground by retreating Confederates. They were retreating and apparently just burned the entire city because that's where they all used to live. Yeah, these stories are very interesting. 1865, Philadelphia burns again. That's funny how it burned in 56 and 65. They just love to have fun with these fires. And then here's a good one, 1866, Portland, and this is Portland, Maine. But wow, check out the destruction of this fire. I mean, this is some ruins here. We have ruins in Portland, Maine, and so much rubble and cement. That's what's crazy about it. But it destroyed the entire commercial district and left 10,000 homeless, apparently. The Great Fire of 1866, yeah, get this, started with a boy lighting a firecracker. Yep. Some funny stories they have behind some of these fires. Ridiculous, you could say. So after Portland, we have 1870, the fire in Medina, Ohio. And then in 1871, we have some strange stuff here. We have simultaneous fires in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Illinois from October 8th through the 9th. And it's, the pyramid of destruction is right here. And magically, simultaneously, this happened. So you can see Chicago, and apparently it was this, the cause of the fire was Mrs. O'Leary and her cow. I don't remember the entire story, but I just remember it being another ridiculous cause or reason given for the fire. So yeah, Chicago has got some devastation there. That's pretty insane. I mean, look at these buildings. They look like they were, bombed from above, firestormed, flooded. I don't even know what you would call it. And it's just massive paths of destruction. And then this panoramic is crazy too. And there's some interesting things about these panoramic shots. I'll try to do some close-ups and throw them in the video too, but it just seems so weird with these panoramic shots and all the destruction and the aftermath, but then you see these wooden structures that appear to be built in and alongside the destruction, so I don't think they had enough time to build all these wooden structures. So were they there already? Or maybe they just got thrown up really fast. I don't know. I don't have time to go into detail and really analyze this, and I'm sure I'll get, smacked down by somebody who knows a little bit more about the specifics of the fire. But my main point is just to introduce all of these fires from the 1800s and the convenient fires that just leveled all of this ancient architecture. And you cannot deny the amazing and excellent architecture that we just can't fathom how it was built. We couldn't do it nowadays. It's too expensive. And that should tell you a lot about the time period you live in. When something that was done 200 years ago can't be done now because it's too expensive, well, what does that tell you about yourself and your current state of affairs? You're a poor peasant because you can't afford to build something they could afford to build 200 years ago. But we got iPhones, okay. So anyways, off of that tangent, and we get back to 1871. So all these three fires, all three of these fires, amazingly, coincidentally burned down this area. And then 1872, the Great Fire of Boston. And this was quite the fire. Massive ruins. Check out those ruins. So, yeah, for whatever reason, they had to get rid of some evidence and some architecture there. That's massive destruction. Look at that destruction. So after Boston, I mean, look at these pictures of Boston. It looks like Dresden in World War II. That is quite insane. Look at this. This is all Boston. Whew. So, wow. Yeah, look at the close-up of the, wow. Yeah, you see what I mean about wow, that is really insane. Okay, then after Boston, we have Chicago burning again in 1874. Now, this is the strange one, though. In 1871, Chicago burned, and we have pictures of that. We have pictures of the aftermath. But 3 years later, apparently Chicago burned again, and they say, in some respects, was very similar to the 1871 fire. Well, I can't find any photographs of the 1874 fire. So we have plenty of photos of the 1871 fire, but no photos of the 1874 fire, which was apparently very similar. That's just strange. Very strange. 1876 then, moving on. We have Fernandina Beach, Florida burned. Oh my. And then 1877 we have Paris, Texas. And that was the first of 3 fires that destroyed much of the town. I don't know what was going on in Paris, Texas, but apparently it burned to the ground 3 times. So I guess they just got a string of bad luck there in Paris, Texas. So moving on, what do we have? We have Clarksville, Tennessee in 1878. Okay, so in 1878 we have Clarksville, Tennessee. And then the same year, apparently Cape May burned to the ground. Look at that destruction. Wow. And I have 1881, this was called the Thumb Fire in Michigan, burned over 1 million acres during a drought, and 282 people died. So that was 1881. 1881 also, Cincinnati, Ohio burned to the ground. 1882 we have Haverhill, Massachusetts. And again, what is with Massachusetts? A lot of a lot of cities burned to the ground in Massachusetts, and they were all concrete structures and seemingly well built, but yeah, that state was very unlucky again when it comes to fires. And then in 1883, we have the Vineyard Haven, again in Massachusetts, burns. We have 1885, Galveston, Texas, fire. That's some significant destruction in Galveston, Texas there. Wow, yeah, Galveston, that got hit hard. And always these concrete buildings burning, so it's just so convenient. And then 1877, we have Minnesota, Cannon Falls, Minnesota fire. Then the same year, we have Sanford, Florida. And then 1889, we have the Great Seattle Fire, we have the Great Spokane Fire, the Great Ellensburg Fire, the Great Bakersfield Fire, and then the first Great Fire of Lynn, Massachusetts. So in 1889, they were busy. I guess they were getting anxious and had to really work harder to get rid of a lot of evidence. So we have Seattle, Spokane, Ellensburg, Bakersfield, Lynn, all these places just magically burned to the ground. So look at the destruction in all of these places in 1889. That is terrible. I mean, wow, look at this destruction. Yeah, it's hard to fathom. I mean, we just got hit hard with fires in the 1800s. We were fighting too many wars, I guess, and digging too many tunnels through entire mountains in the 1800s. Look at this destruction. Wow. I mean, it's like a firestorm. This is crazy. 1889 Seattle. And yeah, just look at these photos. I don't even know what to say. It's just massive destruction. Be careful with fire, guys. It'll kick your butt. Wow, look at this. These pictures just go on forever. So anyways, let's move on. 1991, Syracuse, New York. Burned. Some severe damage there. 92, we have Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So that was... Oh, there's some destruction there. Wow, look at that. Yeah, Milwaukee got hit hard. At least they had there's a fire crew there. I mean, they had fire crew. I've seen pictures of boats even in the early 1800s with water cannons. So it's not like they didn't have fire prevention and firefighting abilities. They did, especially when you got concrete burning. What the heck? But anyways, moving on, we have 1883. I'm sorry, we have 1893, Fargo, North Dakota. Look at the destruction in Fargo. Jeez, oh man. How did they even have that much built by then? But yeah, it burned to the ground. Sorry about that, Fargo. Wow, you got hit hard. Look at all these pictures. This is terrible. Whew. Yeah, I'm not sure. 1893 or 1894, Chicago got hit with some fires, and it wasn't really clear what year some of these fires were, but apparently the World's Fair buildings burnt to the ground right in 1893 or 1894. I'm not sure. I couldn't pin down the date on some of these photos. But the World's Fair, yes, did burn down conveniently. And then we have the Hinckley 1894 fire, the Great Hinckley Fire, Minnesota. So it destroyed several towns and over 400 people were killed. So it was right in the same area of Chicago and Hinckley. Very strange. 1895 then, moving on, we have New Orleans. We have the New Orleans fire. I don't know why. No pictures. Apparently they could not bring cameras to New Orleans in 1894 or 1895. They could not get a camera to New Orleans for the Great Fire there. But in Knoxville, Tennessee in 1897, look at the destruction that went on there. That's massive. Holy moly, look at these buildings. Concrete destroyed. Your concrete is no match for fire. So, yeah, there goes Knoxville, Tennessee. And then 1898, we have Park City. Very similar, a lot of concrete just burning up like nothing. So, yeah, I just wanted to share with you all of the pictures or drawings of the fires that took place in the 1800s, and I call these the convenient fires of the 1800s. And again, in the 1800s, we are led to believe that 25 years after becoming a nation, America was still settling, and we were able to, with horses and buggies and nothing else, no infrastructure, we were able to map out cities, lay out cities, implement infrastructure, construct entire cities across the U.S. We were able to build gigantic cathedrals, gigantic post offices and other government buildings, gigantic prisons all across the U.S., ornate, amazing architecture in the prisons, the post offices, Capitol buildings, train stations later on, insane asylums. We built all these crazy insane, pardon the pun, crazy insane asylums in the 1800s, crazy architecture, crazy bridges. We fought non-stop wars during the 1800s. We fought non-stop fires during the 1800s. We invented trains. We laid train tracks. We forged the iron and steel, and we laid train tracks across the U.S. in the second half of the 1800s. Miles and miles of train tracks by hand, horses and buggies laying these iron rails and the ties and the gravel and leveling the land and blasting through mountains and making tunnels all across the United States. And again, this happened all across the world, but within 100 years, we did all of this in the 1800s. I mean, it's just very weird. That would be, if you are not into conspiracies and you're watching this video, if you could at least, you would have to at least admit that it's all very strange and weird and convenient. And if it is all completely 100% true, what are we doing now? 200 years, just 100 or 200 years later, we can't even afford to make one of these tiny buildings, and they made them across the entire United States. So are we richer now? We have, fancy cars and iPhones. Are we smarter now? Are we richer now? I would say not, if we can't even build one little building like they had back in the day. And, we obviously know that our society is crap compared to back then. You can't let your kids out unattended. But I know for a fact, based on my parents and my grandparents and what they did as children, society was a lot safer back then. You could just let your kids roam wild in the towns. My parents used to go across the city in Pittsburgh by themselves when they were 12, and the parents weren't worried about them. I mean, children were able to do a lot more. Society was much safer back in the day. So, what is the deal? You can't act like, I know you can't go back in time and you're living in the past. Yeah, you can't live in the past, but we're humans, we're smart. We should be able to take this society and at least steer it in the right direction. Hey, are we heading in the wrong direction? Well, let's figure out what's wrong. Let's figure where the correlation lies. As technology increases, we seem to be getting dumber and society seems to be getting worse. So why is that? How does that fit together? These are just questions any thinking person would ask himself, instead of just blindly memorizing historical facts handed to you, spoon-fed to you by your government in your school. So, let's wake up here and start acting like humans and not, debt slave peasants to the corporations. Anyways, hope you guys all have a nice day. Adios.
Yeah, it was a fire.
Fire?
That's right.
It just seems like a weird place to go on fire.
It's a very weird place to go on fire. It's the weirdest thing I've ever heard. I mean, maybe